What am I supposed to talk about? If you don't want me, what am I supposed to talk about?
Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of the On The Line podcast, where today I'm joined by Dom Phillips. Dom, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, mate. How about you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, I've been in lockdown. There's not a lot to do.
Oh God, yeah.
Just looking for content on YouTube to watch, do my schoolwork, but that's about it, really.
We can't talk about what's going on, Villa, but I know you've brewed up some good topics for us to discuss today.
Indeed, we have, which is a nice segue to today's topic of the podcast. We'll be delving into the reasons how Aston Villa won 10 consecutive games last season, which then consequently saw them gain promotion back to the Premier League. Let's jump straight into it then. So my first reason is the introduction of Captain Jack Grealish. Dom, how influential is Grealish?
I mean, he's absolutely like I describe him as a 1 in a million footballer. He oozes class. He dictates the game. He draws players towards him and just releases the ball beautifully. He can be everything and nothing to us in such a short space of time. He's just fantastic. And having him back when he come back from injury, obviously, at the back end of last season was just such a massive upswing to us, and that obviously reflected in our results.
So looking back at last season, before Grealish's return to the side, Villa didn't really have any creativity within their starting 11. Fans can argue whether that is Dean Smith's fault, the coaching staff's fault, or just the transfer recruitment teams. But really, Grealish is unreplaceable, isn't he? He's just so talented.
I think it's sort of a mixture of both, because as I've said, he's such a class player and he's so hard to replace. But at the same time, all like great teams and all well-planned and well-structured teams have a plan B. Look at Real Madrid. If they need a correct midfielder, they've got Isco, they have Modric, they also have James Rodriguez. You know, if Manchester City have problems, they've got Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden. So if there is an absence of a creative player, they've always got someone else that they can put into that position. And while Jack is so unique, at the same time, I do think it's the role of the transfer team, the senior team at Villa, you know, like people like Sousa, people like, you know, Smith to an extent, who need to have maybe done more, maybe should do more in the future, especially if we lose Jack, in terms of replacing him with a creative player who can help do what he does for us.
So let's put ourselves in the shoes of the transfer recruitment team. If Grealish does go, and let's bear in mind the money that Villa will have, depending if they're in the Championship or the Premier League, who would you replace him with? Let's look at both consequences, whether we're in the Championship or the Premier League.
If it was the Championship, I'd just get O'Hare back from Coventry and keep him and just basically play him in the midfield as sort of an attacking midfielder. I think if we go down, we're going to be hard pressed to spend much money. So saving funds where you can by getting a good young talent who's done well this season in from the Championship obviously would be a great signing. Then, depending on if you want in the Premier League, depending on if you want Jack on the winger and midfield, I think Milot Rashica is a name that's been talked about a lot. He's a fantastic player for Werder Bremen. But whether Leipzig are after him if Werner goes is something that I've seen as well. So, you know, he'd be a fantastic player to sign. But it just, as I say, as you both said there, it depends whether we're in the Premier League or whether in the Championship, because it's all the financial aspect of it, really, and who we can actually appeal.
Yeah.
Because someone of Jack's calibre, it's so hard for us to appeal someone like him to the club, because we always automatically have to step down, I think.
I totally agree. So let's look specifically at last season. When he was out of action, what was nice to see was that Grealish was continually working on his physique in order to improve his performances on the pitch. So just how refreshing was it to see, from a fan's perspective, to see a Villa player tirelessly working hard to return to the squad?
I mean, given we're both like young fans in the grand scheme of things, we probably only really remember the decline of Aston Villa. Our memories are like post 2010. Or like just at the end of like the recent heyday, the O'Neill era, and then going into the decline under like Houllier, McLeish, you know, etc. We've never really seen, as like us two, we've never really seen a rise in fortune or a positive thing or a really good positive trend in Villa until our recent success climbing out the Championship. So with that in mind, we've become used to players who are like not really giving their all, not really showing much passion, not so much desire. Players weren't very good. We've got used to that as fans our whole lives. So to have all of that and all of that desire, you know, not just on the pitch, but desire to get back, desire to win the club points, get back from a horrific injury. You know, Jack's recovery and the way that he's improved his game are indicative of how brilliant and how unique he really is.
Let's talk about Grealish's first game back from injury last season. It was against Derby County at home. A fantastic day all round for Dean Smith's side. But what we're going to concentrate on now is his goal. It was remarkable. Just describe to me how you were feeling and how you were feeling when you saw Grealish contemplating trying to strike that from out the edge of the box. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that whole day was quite funny because I don't always get to go down. I don't go down as much as I'd like to, but I did actually go that day. It was the first game I'd went to that season. And I took my girlfriend at the time for her first match. It was going to be a big special day. I was, oh, this better go well. I wasn't expecting a win, to be honest. I was expecting a tough game because they're on a good run. They've got Mason Mount, Harry Wilson. They're a good team. Frank Lampard's doing well there. And, McGinn was suspended, so I was like, oh, this is going to be a tough game. And we didn't know if Jack was going to play. When I saw him start, I was happy. When I saw him named captain, I was confused. But, I mean, by the time the corner came round, I think it was already game, set, and match, wasn't it? We played the best, that first half I've ever seen us play. It was like we were striking around like Barcelona. It was like watching a FIFA game against AI. We were literally just passing it around, and it was so good. We were just scoring for fun. And then Whelan's corner, you watch the ball the whole way as it floats. And, as soon as it came to Jack, we were already celebrating in the stand. We knew it was going in. It was just, we're looking at each other, jumping around, going, what is going on? 4-0 up in 45 minutes. And, I've got to say, to this day, I maintain there was magic in the air at that game, 100%. We were destined to go up the second. Not only that we won that game, the way we won the game, I just think it was destiny on some weird level.
So let's look specifically at your opinions on Grealish being appointed captain. To me, I thought it was a good decision because it sort of improved him as a player in terms of his leadership qualities. But what do you think?
I mean, I think it's improved him by giving him more pressure and more responsibility that he's thrived under. Whether I think he's a great captain in the sense of leadership and setting the example, I'm not different man, to be honest. But I'm not going to dive into it because that's a controversial opinion that I'll get slated for. To be honest, whether giving Jack the captaincy and us winning the 10 games was a coincidence is up for debate. I mean, if you went to 5 job interviews in a red shirt, got rejected for all of them, and then wore a blue shirt for the 6th and got the job, it doesn't necessarily mean that the problem was the shirts. The problem may well have been that your performance wasn't as good as interviewed on the Villa comparison. The team morale wasn't very high. There wasn't a lot of confidence. We weren't playing very well. Players weren't playing as well. And that was before Jack came back. I don't know if it was his presence as much as him being the captain that actually raised the level of the team, to be honest.
Let's look at around the team now currently whilst Villa are in the Premier League. If you were to pick anyone else to be the captain, who would it be? Because in my mind, the first name that jumps to mind is Tyrone Mings.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Tom Heaton was a great captain for Burnley, but Tyrone Mings is the only name. I think, and I'm going to do that unpopular opinion. I think Tyrone Mings should be named captain. I think he's a much better natural leader. I think at times this season, Jack showed on the pitch that he can lose his temper and he can be quite emotional kind of player. But Mings is like that rock solid, reliable. He's always in there when there's a situation on the pitch or off the pitch. He's always calmly dealing with it. He's always setting the example and always flawless in terms of attitude and mentality and application and things like that. And I feel like he would be I think he's the perfect stereotypical captain. Like, I could see him becoming England captain one day the way he's playing if he keeps improving. Do you know what I mean?
Totally agree. How impressed have you been by his improvement as a footballer?
I mean, I know we'll talk more about it later, but he is one of the biggest success stories of like the Suso model, the Dean Smith. Go and get some forgotten talent and make them work, get the best out of them and put them into a team. Because he's out of nowhere in Bournemouth, and he was really, I think he's playing for the under-23s. Think about it, he was like 2 years ago, he was playing for the under-23s.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous for Bournemouth under-23s, and now he's like, he's an England, I'd say star. I maintain he's one of England's best centre-halves. Like, it's absolutely crazy the development he's gone out completely nowhere. I mean, did you expect it? Did you expect him to be this good?
Not at all, because when he came to Villa, for me, they labelled him as a fullback. When talking to the press, he did say that he can play at centre-back. Well, you can see that with his physique. He's a strong guy. I think it was his first game, and on the radio, they were just praising Tyrone Mings because of his leadership qualities. And to be honest, when I saw him on the pitch, my first experience of him seeing him play, it was refreshing to see that leadership qualities on the pitch. In such a young squad that we have now, it's great to have a player like Tyrone Mings, who does have experience, which leads me on to my second reason. Within Villa's first team squad last season, there were some various experienced footballers. Firstly, so let's look at Glenn Whelan, player who was not popular at all, but became an impactful presence within Villa's midfield. In your opinion, how vital is it to have an anchor in midfield, someone who's prepared to stay back whilst other midfielders attack?
I mean, the way football is played nowadays, basically all of the teams do it and have this anchor man in midfield. That's how important it is to come. The 4-3-3 with 2 8s who roam around if you're going to go in numbers and a 6 who sits behind and sprays the ball around. It's so in fashion. I mean, Liverpool, Fabinho's made that position his own. Henderson can play there as well. City have got Fernandinho, we've got Rodri as well. Barcelona, Busquets played there. Real Madrid have got Casemiro. And I mean, even going back to the likes of Claude Makelele, who sort of was that first lone deep line midfielder that I think, it's such an important role. It's got so many requirements. Well, it's got to be a midfielder with great defensive ability, but also great forward passing and vision. And in my preference, someone with a bit of height, a bit of strength, a bit of power, a bit of pace, a bit of energy. Someone who can really get the engine room, get the midfield running from the back and link sort of those different lines of defence, midfield and attack. And the thing is, it's sad now. I mean, Glenn Whelan was never really great at it, but we haven't plugged a gap at all. I mean, we don't have anyone who fits that complete mould of an anchorman. Nakamba covers the defensive side, yeah, but he's lightweight. He's not really good at moving the ball forward, and Luis, he can't really play the role effectively. He's not very strong. He's not very quick, very powerful. He's not really good defensively. One day he might make it there, but on him, I'm sure where his real role lies. And I just think, again, we don't have a plan B for Jack, and we don't have an anchor in midfield. And the way that we play football, the way that we set up, I think having a really good, strong anchorman, like when we were linked with Steven and Zonzi, that would have been a fantastic starting to sit there and do that. It'd been brilliant. So I think we really are lacking someone like that.
As well as having a mix of talents within the midfield, how important is it to have a mix of ages, being that the experienced players can teach the young players new tricks and help them develop as footballers?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this season how important it is because, I'm not being funny, we failed at it. The balance is so hard to find. You need experienced players with quality, and I'm going to emphasise the quality because not players like, say, Neil Taylor, who are around because they've been around, not because they're actually any good at football, let's be honest. You need to balance those kinds of players with these quality young talents. You need guiding figures on and off the pitch, but that doesn't mean that you should get bad players for the sake of it. You have to spend for quality experience, but it's so important. You need knowledge of where the ship is going, how to handle the league, how to handle problems, and you need respected figures within that dressing room. Villa failed in the sense that outside of, say, Tom Heaton, we don't really have any experienced quality in that side. We have some experienced players like El Mohammadi and Taylor, but they're fringe players, you know what I mean? That experience is so important to balance out with these younger players who've got more hunger, got more desire, who are still trying to make a name for themselves. Bruce, I would say, went too far on the side of favouring the older players. That was a massive failing of his. And, Dean Smith's a manager, his record is to do the opposite. So I just think as long as we find that balance and get a bit of quality in there, I think we're on a good track in terms of that. But it's so important.
Looking back at last season and looking specifically at another powerhouse in the midfield in his prime, Mile Jedinak, who's another example of an experienced midfielder, he was fielded not as much as Whelan during the promotion push. But when stepping up against West Brom in the playoff semi-finals, he did make his presence counted, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. I mean, after Smith took over, especially, I can't remember him doing much. He might have come on a couple of times, and before Smith covered at centre-back, when we didn't have any centre-backs because Bruce let Elphick go and we had no centre-backs, Barchester.
Stupid decision that was.
That's the worst transfer decision at Villa in so long. Anyway, at least it worked out, huh? The whole season was worth it. His whole Villa career was worth it by that penalty in the semi-final. He had heart, he had passion, he was hard. He was just a hard man, to be honest. And at that level, when we signed him, he was class. I mean, in that first season, he wore the 25 shirt. I remember, I like my shirt number stuff, but he was fantastic in the first season we went down. He's one of our best players. And now it's nice to see Villa rewarding him for his work, because he's coaching the under-18s in the absence of Richard Beale, who's now gone to Solihull Moors. So it's nice to have a character like him who's given his all to the club in the last few years, who is now being rewarded for that by getting a job at the club.
Talking about hard men, and there's one man who we can't forget when discussing experienced players, and that is the Scottish Cafu, Alan Hutton. We can only talk about one moment during his time at Villa, his goal against Birmingham City during the 4-2 win at Villa Park in the league. What was going through your mind when he began to dribble towards the opposition's goal?
I mean, it was quite honestly, it was pass, stop, lay it off.
Yes.
And then towards the end, I was like, oh my God. And then just absolutely out of nowhere, absolute pandemonium. It was unbelievable goal that was. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Birmingham did not defend it very well. They just sort of stepped off him and allowed him to jog through. And then he outpaced Craig Gardner. It wasn't like he had the most difficult journey through the middle of the park, but it was still a phenomenal goal. I'm not going to lie. Probably, if we didn't get promoted, I think that and lost the derby, say, that would probably have been a moment of the season. In front of the whole 10, it was just brilliant. It was such an entertaining game. And we weren't even that good that game. We were a bit defensively shaky. We went behind. I was bricking it. But they're not going to get a win against us anytime soon when Alan Hutton just dribbles through the whole team and slams it home. I mean, you just put the ice on the cake because that was a brilliant day. I mean, what a goal! What a man!
As well as his goals, he's a fantastic man. As well as his goals, Alan Hutton has been there for Villa when they needed him most during the tougher times financially. For all that he has done for the club, do you believe that he deserves to be given the legend status?
Legends are, for me, great players who win big trophies with Villa. He's a cult hero. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I don't think he's a legend. The term has to be used as sparingly as possible. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's even a possibility Jack might not go down as a Villa legend, Because cool. Legends are judged on, legends are judged on what they achieve. Jack's only ever actually achieved a couple of cup finals and a promotion with us. That's not an FA Cup. That's not, Champions League, top 4 placing in the league yet. Fingers crossed, who knows? But, I just feel like to be a legend, you have to succeed with the club and be with it through its heyday. And unfortunately for Hutton, he was never actually that good. And he was only really there as like a cult hero status. So I love him, don't get me wrong. But legends talk, I think, is a bit too far.
What I'm saying now is the description of a legend, there's only one description for a legend. There's only one definition for a legend. But at different clubs, due to the fact that in different leagues, in different positions, in different financial positions, the term a legend could be used differently at Aston Villa to Manchester City or Manchester United. What I argue is Jack Grealish, for all that he's done for the club, he may go now to another club, being that if Villa go down to the Championship. But do you not think that Grealish deserves that legend status?
I mean, I think it depends how this whole... Right, he is sort of the face of the Dean Smith, Purslow, this iteration of the Villa backroom team, the elite senior management team. He is sort of the poster boy for that. But I don't think Jack's going to go down as a legend because he's just going to go at the end of the season. And what we'll remember him for is it depends what happens. If he goes at the end of the season after not a very successful season, we'll think, yeah, he got us there, but we didn't really do anything. And then if we do stay up and we do build on it and we go on to become a force to be reckoned with, then yeah, he's the man who carried us from the bottom. He's carried us to be a solid, good team. And then we'll have great players in the team. He built that. He's part of that. So I feel like it's too early to say if he's a legend at the end of the day. He's only 24. So I think we'll have to see how things fare with this season and the future moving forward, to be honest. I'm not comfortable calling him a legend quite yet. But I do accept your point. The metrics by which you define a legend do have to be slightly altered based off of what stature of club that you're basing it off.
Yeah, so let's look back at last season and then let's look at our transfer activity. And due to the fact that financial fair play was put in place, Villa had to delve into the loan market. So one of the club's most influential loan signings was Tammy Abraham. How important was it that in order to push for promotion, Dean Smith had a proven goal scorer up front?
Yeah, I mean, loanees like Tammy Abraham, especially Tammy Abraham, are one of the, if not one of the biggest reasons that we actually got promoted that season. So before Tammy came, while we were in the Championship, we struggled so much with strikers. I mean, Grabban was good for a time. Davis showed flashes, but was never really in there. But Hogan, Gested, Bonlahor, McCormack, these kinds of players, they were shocking in the Championship. We needed goals up front and lots of it. I think that season we needed someone, and it was a great signing by Steve Bruce, to be fair. And, Smith got the best out of him, 26 goals. And without him, we were absolutely nowhere, especially in the early stages of the season when the team couldn't play football because we were under Bruce ball. And, we just looked like a mid-table, mediocre side. He really did carry that club to the Premier League. He's one of the massive reasons. 26 goals. It's a huge number.
What are your favourite footballing memories of Tammy Abraham at Villa?
I mean, it's got to be the ultimate moment is the last penalty, the winning penalty in the playoff semi-final. Then there's the knee slide against Sheffield Wednesday and the 3-1 away victory. There's like this great video I saw on Twitter at the time. He knee slides against the pitch and he just got his arms out looking into the camera and he's looking like, yeah, I just scored that. And he looks so cool. Even in that derby game I went to, he did have swag. He deserved the right to have swag. That was a great game. Even that derby game I went to was sensational. The first leg for the playoff semi-final penalty. His hat-trick against Forest in the 5-5 was great. I love him so much, Tammy. He's great. It made me so emotional when he scored against us this season at Stamford Bridge. But, the fact he didn't celebrate and, sort of looked quite dejected on the footage. I wish I didn't score against the Villa, really. That sort of got to me. The best moment was him, though, this season I want to mention, because not many people have picked up on it. I think it was his England debut or something. After the game, maybe. Or something happened, and he was excited about it, something. He was happy, He ran past all of his Chelsea teammates, like Ross Barkley, Mason Mount, who were in the England setup with him. He ran straight past them when he was like celebrating. And he ran straight over and he embraced Mings. He went straight to Mings. He's the first one he went. It's just like, he loves Mings, man. If Sarri was still at Chelsea, yeah, man, the bond. Imagine that bond if we'd have got him. You know, I think if Sarri was still there, we probably would have signed him. You know, I really wish we did. He would have made us a top 12 side, I'd say, if we had him this season. You know, I really, really wish we did. You know, Lampard, you know, I guess you can say, he had the last laugh at the end because he took away our goals, didn't he?
Yeah. Imagine if he went to Wolves as well. They have Raul Jimenez, who's their talisman. But how would that complicated things? Would have Villa got promoted in the end, do you think?
I mean, I don't think we would have. I think we'd have lacked the goals. Who else would we have got? We would have had to get another loan signing because of the way I think FFP was at the time. There wasn't really any good loan strikers going, you know. And I've got to say, that is another one of Jack's greatest achievements. Is telling Tammy, "I'll be back next week. I'll be back. Me and you lighting up the pitch again. We'll go up." And it kept saying it. It kept saying it until after the deadline was done, just to keep Tammy at the club. That is probably that is brilliant. That is. I love Jack so much.
Another influential loan player Villa acquired in January was Tyrone Mings, who we talked about previously, and went on to sign permanently at the club. What were your thoughts on Mings' arrival at the club? Did you believe that he was the right man to strengthen Villa's defence from first impressions?
You know, we were going through an injury crisis at the time. So when Villa announced that we're signing a left back who, apparently what happened is with the centre-back thing is he sort of said to Eddie Howe, I want to go out on loan, but I want to become a centre-back because I feel like it'd suit me better. And Eddie Howe said, yeah. So that's what happened with him becoming a centre-back.
Correct decision.
Whoever put him at left back, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. You know, I thought the last thing that we needed with our problems of an injury crisis was someone with a massive injury record like he had. And I told myself, we'd signed a hospital bed. And I was more excited with Horse's signature, to be honest. I thought Horse would play more. You know, I recognised how intelligent he was from his interviews. And how, you know, he seemed like a great guy in some of the club TV interviews. I'm like, he made a really positive impression on me on that front from the start. But I didn't expect anything from him. I didn't really think he'd play. I didn't really think he'd get going at the club. But, you know, I just love being proven wrong. It is a brilliant feeling, isn't it? But without him, again, no promotion. He was absolutely immense in all the attributes you need from a leader at the back. I could go on for hours. You know, he was a brick wall. A phenomenal player, and you know he's proven such how great a signing he's been. A lot of like the Wolves fans, especially because they don't like the Villa fans at the moment for some reason, but they were slating the fee that we paid for him. 20 million for this. Oh, what have you said? I mean, I think that looks like a bargain. I think he goes for 40, 50, 60 million now. He's double or tripled his value easily. He's been a fantastic signing for us. I mean, probably one of the best signings that we've made in my lifetime, to be honest. You know, I love it. He's brilliant off the pitch and on the pitch. You know, giving people like Dan Rollinson jobs, you know, just being really nice on social media, helping out with charities and things like that.
Yeah,
he's just a credit to himself, and he's a credit to, as I say, the signature model, the transfer model that we've been following.
He had only been at the club for a short period of time, but how proud are you when Mings walked out in the England shirt?
I mean, it was the greatest moment because he should have been in the squad for the one before, and how he didn't get there.
I agree.
He wasn't in there, and then he improved even more, and we're like, oh, he's got to be in the next one. You know, it was brilliant, but it was overshadowed by all the disgusting racism that was going on at the time. To be honest, because that was I watched that game live just to watch Mings, and I was just like, this is really bad. But you know, at the end of the day, it was a credit to himself. Obviously, he didn't look 100% because he's playing with like 10 different players, and he's playing against like some semi-professional. I think because it was a very small team he made his debut against. He was actually up front against him, so it wasn't exactly like he was playing against the best players, so he didn't really have much to do at the back. But I think everyone was at a positive memory. Yeah, he did all right. You know, he had a good debut. He's played well for England. I think, you know, now that Euros are going to be in 2021, I think it was in 2020 he would be really integral. But 2021 is an extra year of development because we've got to remember, because of his injuries, he's on a delayed development curve. He's going to develop later and peak later than most of the players are. So he's going to be really primed for that Euro 2021, I think.
Playing alongside Mings last season, Axel Tuanzebe was a brilliant loan addition from Manchester United. How disappointing has it been to see Axel not getting any playing time for the Red Devils?
It grinds my gears so much. It makes me hate United more than I already do. So I wish we'd signed him. You know, and I like Conte because I think Conte was the alternative. But I'm glad we got him. But if we got him instead of Engels, that saves 7 million that we could have put on Ben Rama instead of Trezeguet. Imagine that scenario for a second. Instead of having Bjorn Engels and Trezeguet, we could have had Tuanzebe on loan again and Ben Rama in. that is a completely different kettle of fish. We've even seen Axel have been used at left back for United.
I know.
What are you doing? I've got to say, he's got to be the third choice centre half for them, in my view. And
just like Mings, he's got the physique for a centre back, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got the athleticism. He's good on the ball. He's good in the air. At times, his marking wasn't great. At points, that's the only criticism I've got of him. He's a fantastic player. I've got friends who watched our games and say, well, I think Axel's better than Mings. I don't agree, but I get your point. He's a fantastic player. I think there's an argument to be made that he's better than Lindelof and should be partnering Harry Maguire every game. But, maybe if we do stay open to next season and United go for someone like Upamecano to build the back line the back two for the next 10 years, to do a Ferdinand Vidic thing with, Upamecano and Maguire, then we could go for him again. Who knows? So, I wouldn't rule out us ever getting him again. I don't think his story at United is going to go as well as he'd like. But if we could get him back, that'd be brilliant, because he was fantastic.
From loan acquisitions to recalling players who have been on loan for the first half of the season, let's specifically look at Jed Steer. Since his arrival at Villa, he has significantly improved as a goalkeeper. Were you annoyed at Bruce for loaning out Steer in the first half of the season?
I mean, not at the time. No, he never really done anything at Villa. I think he maybe played like one game. Did he play? I can't remember if he started the whole game or not. I think he played.
Yeah, one moment that caught my eye was he played in the FA Cup against Peterborough. And despite Peterborough winning 3-1, I thought that he was superb.
Oh, really? I do remember losing to Peterborough in the Cup. I didn't know he started that game and played well. I can't remember, honestly. But no, to be fair, I wasn't really fussed at the time, because I never really knew why we kept him, because he was on the books for so long. We just kept loaning him out and not really giving him a chance. So, now I know we ended up keeping him for a rainy day. So, he was so important to us last season. Bruce certainly made worse transfer decisions at the time with the centre-back thing. But in hindsight, Smith getting him back was a masterstroke, because Kalinic turned out to be a disaster.
One of Steer's memorable moments was during the penalty shootout against West Brom, where famously he stared at Mason Holgate before Holgate missed his penalty. How impressed were you by Steer's confidence then?
I mean, I think after the penalty shootout, it struck me, because he discussed about how they'd done like a lot of sports psychology work for it, and I thought this was really rather interesting. Quite boring to some, but it's really interesting, honestly.
No,
they have like psychological techniques for the penalty shootout of how you actually like get an advantage over your opponent, which is fascinating. Anyway, he basically said one of the things that they had to do is, whenever you have a penalty against you, the goalie of your team has to pass the ball to the penalty taker, the next penalty taker for your team. It's like, it's like the team spirit or some subconscious thing. And I just, he did the work, didn't he? He knew the sports psychology. He had the confidence. He was there for it. He knew it was his moment. He knew it was his season. He just seemed so composed. The first penalty was poor, to be fair, against him. I can't remember who took it. I know the second one was Agati, but I can't remember the first one. I think the save gave him confidence to sort of get the second one, which was a fantastic save, because that was hard and low. But he was amazing in the shootout. He single-handedly got us to Wembley. Honestly, I thought we'd lose the penalties, especially given how Albion had bigged up the penalty game before the game, while we stayed quiet. But again, I love to be proven wrong. And I mean, I think we sort of, the story of last season, I think I want to point out why it's on my mind, is different individuals stepping up at different moments is why we went up. Mainly Jack, Tammy, Mings and Steer. Steer in the playoff semi-final. I mean, Tammy in the playoff semi-final with some crucial penalties. Jack, the Derby game and just elevating in that 10-game win. Mings just holding us on to so many points with brilliant defensive work. If it wasn't for players like those, in individual moments like that, we would never have gone up.
Let's look at the coaching staff now. One man whose work does go unnoticed sometimes, Neil Cutler. He's significantly improved Nyland and Steer. Just how good has he been?
I mean, I've never really been one in my life to sort of go, this coach is brilliant, this coach is if there's one coach that I would look at and say he's a fantastic coach, it's Neil Cutler, because I still remember watching all your Nyland for Villa in the early days, and he was shocking. Like, he would make a fantastic acrobatic save, and then he'd roll the ball to their striker.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah.
He makes so many just stupid mistakes. Like, you do all these good things, but you don't have any confidence, and you just make these silly mistakes. It's like Loris Karius in a way. Like, it was just so frustrating to watch. And Neil Cutler, after this injury, when he wasn't really in the first team, he's clearly spent so much time with him, watching clips, practicing these little technicalities and improving his whole game, because this season, all your nine's been a different goalkeeper, and that is all because of the work of Neil Cutler. He's 29, all your nine is. I didn't realise that would be 29. You know, to develop someone of that age that much in like the space of a year is a ridiculous testament to coaching ability. And as I say, all your Nyland has got to be the greatest achievement of Neil Cutler's individual career. I think the goalkeeper he's turned into.
Now, on that night where Villa did beat West Brom on penalties, I thought the Villa's fan base was superb. Oh. Villa do have one of the most passionate fan bases in the country. How important were the Villa faithful last season specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it was a massive factor as always, because that's just so important, not only this season, but last season. I mean, they carried us through so many games. The atmosphere was just brilliant. I mean, I think there's obviously, you know, you got to take the good with the bad. I didn't like it when Harry Ham was booed off, you know, Baggies at home, the 2-0 defeat. You know, I think sometimes, our frustration got the better of us as a fan base, and I didn't appreciate that because I was a bit toxic. But I don't know, we have some of the best fans in the country, and, you know, you can't really sit here and slag them off. You know, we ride off the momentum. We need the Villa fans, and and we'll talk in a minute later in the podcast about how if we don't have them, we'd suffer so badly.
So looking back at that semi-final second leg, how proud were you to be a Villa fan that day?
I mean, the first leg, I was just so proud on so many levels. And I've got to say, I called that game to a T. In a Villa group chat, right, on Discord before the game, okay. We were all giving our little match predictions. And this is what I said, right? I said, we'll concede early in the first half, ride it through to the second half, and come out after the break, score 2 goals, and win the game 2-1.
Mystic Dom Phillips.
Literally mystic. That is ridiculous. I'm going to hold on to that achievement for the rest of my life. Absolutely utterly ridiculous. You can't really go wrong with that. You know, it's tough to go down early and sort of keep on and keep the spirit in such a high stakes game. But, you know, the red card to Gale helps as well. That helped lift the team, the fans as well that day. There's a video of the whole end singing LA, 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 and it is just ridiculous. I think it was Footy Limbs who posted it saying, like, best chance, saying this is ridiculous for the championship. And it was when you see it like, well, we are not a championship. The fans are ridiculous. You know, we deserve the win that day. You know, they parked the bus, and I'm so happy we won. To be honest, it was a great sunny day. You know, for a great victory. I've got to bring it up now. I've just come to my mind. Have you seen that video of the roses are red one?
I've seen many of them.
Oh,
yeah,
have you seen so there's one for this game, and it's roses are red, Haribos are fruity.
Oh,
and yeah, and then it cuts to the content going on his left foot. Oh, it's a beauty.
it's good. Is that Harry Batters guy? Was it?
Yeah, Harry Batters. That's his name. Yeah. Credit to Harry Batters because that was a brilliant one. That made me laugh. That did.
So, from supporting the boys at home as well as away, Villa's travelling support during that season was superb. Now, with the Premier League looking to play games behind closed doors in neutral venues, how much do you think that will affect the Smith side as they look to survive in the Premier League?
I mean, if we wouldn't go down anyway, like just playing, if we played the rest of the season, which I think is quite possible, I think it would just cement our fate going behind closed doors. You know, as we've just said, we relied so much on our amazing fans. And look, I've probably discussed and aired my views multiple times on what to do with the season, but I think this whole behind closed doors, neutral venues would be a nightmare. You know, it would be totally unfair. Different teams would play different numbers of teams of different, you know, skill levels, home and away. With, you know, it's just so many different factors involved that are unfair. And even then, I just think football without fans is nothing. I could go on forever about this, honestly. I think it'd be an injustice. I know I'm biased, but I'm trying to separate my bias from fair analysis here. But I just think, honestly, if I was speaking as a Villa fan, then there isn't even a debate to be had. It would just be, we'd go down because of how important the fans are to us.
Yeah, I was writing an article a few days ago, and I was talking about how if we were to play behind closed doors, then that may consequently come to the conclusion being unfair.
Yeah.
You believe that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to plug myself, but I've written an article, I've done like podcast on it, I've discussed why I personally null and void all the way, null and void. That's my view. I know some people find it quite unpopular, some people might say I'm biased, but I think it's the best way that, you know, in a crisis like this, we shouldn't be thinking about sport. We should be thinking about the future, not thinking about right now. Everyone gets an equal treatment because everyone gets everything quashed away. There's no risk to any health. Think about the players, you know. Conor Harry was saying, if you do this behind closed door, neutral venues, rushing players back, it's not fair on the players. We're not thinking about player health. At the end of the day, I'm going to say it's all about money. That's this whole solution thing is all about money. And it's
how
really
frustrating
sad.
is that?
It's just like the football is a game. It's an escape. It's a passion. It's a craft. It's so many different things for so many different people. And for the money men, I think, to be treating it so dismissively just because their sponsorship deals aren't going to be perfect. I think, well, I don't care what you think. We don't want. I don't want to think about football. Football's a fun pastime. It's not something that's on my mind while there's a national crisis. I just feel like, or an international crisis, and I just think going through something like that for the money is just so desperate and so disgusting. If teams went down like that, there'd be uproar, and there'd be lawsuits. It would never happen because they'd be sued, they'd be caught. It would be a nightmare, and they won't do it. The only thing they can do, and the only thing they should do, is declare the season null and void.
Now, going off topic again, I'm going to bring this question up because I feel passionate about it. Do you think that it's not fair? All footballers are potentially going to be thoroughly tested, whilst many frontline workers aren't going to be.
Yeah, I mean, the testing inequality has been well documented. I mean, I saw it on Twitter today. Piers Morgan, he had like one symptom, I think, for 48 hours or something, or one mild symptom for 48 hours, and he got tested just for that. And footballers are going to get loads of tests. You know, the government have talked about, and I believe them, by the way, about how difficult tests are to come by. And you know, they don't grow on trees at the end of the day. And I think for us to, I do think it's wasting, because footballers are just people with jobs, and you know, anyone else with a job, you know, anyone else with a really well-paid job isn't getting a test. It's just because footballers are on a whole different money level that they're the ones discussing. It's not fair. We need tests going out to the people who need it, like, you know, the frontline workers, the families, so we can sort out who's actually got it and who should be self-isolating fully and things like that, you know. And I just think, I agree with you. You know, I can see you feel passionately about this. Like, I don't think if we waste all the tests, waste all the time, put all the work into it, go through all the lawsuits, go through all the effort, mess up the entire football schedule and calendar and economy for years to come, I just don't think it's worth it. Football's, no, it's big, and it's very economically important, but it's not that serious. It's not as important as an international crisis.
I totally agree, Dom. But let's bring it back to football a bit. I was talking to Gary Thompson the other day, my first interview on this channel.
Very good interview.
Thank you very much. And he was talking about how certain players do rely on the fan support. Being that we're going to be in a relegation fight, and it does look ever more likely that the Premier League are going to play games behind closed doors, how do you think that will affect the players? Do certain players such as Jack Grealish or Tyrone Mings, who we've argued that they have leadership qualities, they'll probably be the most prominent players on the pitch, but other players who rely on them and the crowd are going to suffer, and there's going to be unfair results at the end of the day.
I think Jack and Mings have got enough class to look past it. They don't need the fans. They're too good at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I just think, if you look at the Watford game as an example, I think Gabby said it in his recent interview with Birmingham Live. You know, it wasn't the players that won that game; it was the fans that won that game, because they did not let them slow down their intensity, slow down their effort, slow down their heart, and they have won that game by pushing that team on. And there are so many players that are inconsistent, players who maybe lack confidence, players who are inexperienced. You know, there's loads of players that we could pick from in the squad. There's no reason to pick them specifically, but we know the ones I'm talking about. Those kinds of players would crash and burn, I think, in neutral venues behind closed doors. As a whole, as well, I do think there are some players who would just be generally demoralised by it, because, like, it's like the story of this is a great tangent. I think it's Sir Ian McKellen, the actor.
Okay,
when he took the job to do The Hobbit, he had to film a load of green screen scenes.
Okay.
And he broke down on set, because he was like, I didn't become an actor to act in front of green screens. I became an actor to act with people and with props and create art based off that. And there are some footballers who would say, I didn't become a footballer to sit in front of an empty venue and kick a ball around. I came to experience the joys, the highs and the lows with the fans, and the fans are such a huge part of that. So I think it would demoralise so many players and subsequently lower their performance levels. And as you say, it would result in so many unequal, unfair results that I just think we just need to just wipe it.
Yeah, shifting back to last season as well, winning 10 consecutive games without the crowd. Do you think that promotion push would have been ever so harder without the fan support?
We wouldn't have got there. We would have finished mid-table.
No.
We wouldn't have got there. I don't see how we would have. I mean, when I say that Jack lifted the rest of the team, Jack lifted the fans as well. The week before, they were booing Connor at Baggies, as I've said, and then it comes to the Derby game. Was it after the international break, I think? And we were jumping up and down having pandemonium because Jack scored a 25-yard volley straight off a corner. So, you know, he also lifted the fans as well. And I feel like if we didn't have the fans last season the way it was, because we had the best fans in the Championship, just saying, Leeds, phenomenal fan base. in terms of the atmosphere they create. So I don't want to start any beef with Leeds fans, don't get me wrong, but I would argue that at that time we were the best fans in the Championship. I mean, Wembley was deafening, let's be real. It even was deafening the year before. You know, we outsing everyone that we go and play, pretty much. And in all the big games, we're always there, and we have one of the best fan bases in the country. And I feel like if we didn't have that fan base last season, there was no way the morale would have been raised anywhere near the level that it did.
Let's turn the tables, Tom. Do you have any other reasons for Aston Villa's success last season?
I don't know, Leo. You just called me Tom.
Did I? Right. I said Tom. I said Dom, didn't I?
You said Tom?
I'm sorry. I am sorry.
It's all right. I'll let you off. No, I think the main reason we went up as well is just we had a whole new club culture that sort of was cemented when the new owners came in, the Purslows came in, the Susos came in. I do give him credit for that, to be fair, even though I don't particularly rate him. I just think the whole feeling of optimism around the club with the money and all the improvements that we've been making, like the women's teams, the youth teams, Bodymore Heath, all those things that we've been doing to level up Aston Villa, get new people in, get fresh faces in, all of that has created a new culture, a new feeling, because any of the players from like before that time, in like 2010 to 16, they'll say it was a toxic club. It really was a toxic club with a horrible, toxic, vile atmosphere and culture around it. And the owners ripped that apart. And I think combined with other factors, that made a difference to sort of propel us over the line, I'd say.
You talk about the impact of the owners. Now, during this difficult time, what I've been proud about is Christian Purslow and Nasser Suarez, and basically all the officials at Aston Villa, their response to the epidemic. So, for example, Chief Executive Christian Purslow stated that Aston Villa will distribute to local organisations and people in need. The club's first-team players, coaches and senior management team will defer 25% of their salaries for 4 months. How proud are you to be an Aston Villa fan where players are, even though they're getting paid significant salaries, how proud are you to say that your club is responding in the right way to the coronavirus pandemic?
We've seen clubs that are bigger react a lot worse, like Tottenham and Liverpool, before they're like backtracked or whatever. And I just feel like this comes down to what we said about the new owners, the new club culture. For the first time in my life, I can say I feel proud. I just feel proud of the club. We're a great community club. And I just say, we did the right thing. We're not putting any of the non-first team playing stuff on furlough, all the homeless food bank stuff, in donations that we've been doing. And even before that, we did some donations to the another food bank. I think I can't remember what it was specifically. We donated. I think yes, it was. The match was postponed. That was the first match that was postponed.
Chelsea.
And yes, the Chelsea game. That's it. And we'd already done a lot of the food preparation stuff in the Villa kitchen.
Yeah.
So they got all the ready meals that they'd done, and they gave them out to the homeless. And I just think gestures like that, and the gestures that you listed there, it's just why I love the new setup, and I love the new owners, and I love Christian Purslow, and it just makes you proud to be a Villa fan again, because as you say, we've got players on stupidly high salaries like all of the clubs do, but at least we offset that by being a real community club and making someone that people in Birmingham can be proud of.
In contrast, what would you say to those who are not willing to? Well, I'm not pointing at anyone specifically, but to those football clubs who are not willing to contribute to society at this time.
Well, you've got you, especially the biggest ones. You've got billions and billions of pounds, and you need to use it wisely. You have a lot of money. You've worked hard to get into your position, but it would also take a degree of luck to get into such an fortunate economic position. You've got so many people behind you in terms of fans, players, and staff. You control a massive global brand. You are in a massive seat that there are millions. There are like so many, not millions, Jesus Christ, but there are literally people lining up to take your job the second that you make one single mistake. You're in such a brilliant position, so fortunate. There are people lining up to replace you if they could. You've got a global brand behind you, so just make sure that you exercise your power with a level of morality as well.
Dom, it's been excellent to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Liam. Great work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a bit of a ramble today, guys, but I hope you enjoyed it. Please, could you like the video and subscribe to the channel? We would both really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be back for another podcast very, very soon. Also, before we go, if you can check out Dom's website using the link in the description down below, we would really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, and see you later.
What am I supposed to talk about?